Chapter 11, Love. Love's mind raced, searching for the detail he'd missed or overlooked or just flat out fucked up. Everything today had gone too smoothly. In Fatum's ballroom, he awaited the start of dance practice. His highly recommended instructor, shipped in from the forest, Leonardo, was placing all the elites on their starting marks. They were just a fraction of the important attendees who held Love's future in their delicate hands. In just one Zeta cycle, all of the elite from every kingdom would arrive to Seaside to preview the fair's most important spectacles. Nightly balls would showcase C's musical prowess amongst other talents. Only the last night of the fair would be without a ball, due to the matching ceremony and the subsequent fornication requirements. Love thought how strange it must be for the elites to know that if they decided to pair with a South Sands Alciba, they'd be married and inserting themselves in just a week and a half. Love couldn't imagine. Luckily, he'd have plenty of time to court someone. Surely, once the fair concluded, some mother of good standing would recognize his value and ask him to pay a visit to her highborn daughter. However, those dreams must wait. The present required Love's full attention. At the moment, that meant bowing as Princess Fatum entered the room. Fatum the 23rd's guards entered first, surveying the room with the cold, dutiful stares fitting of their station. They paused on Love, immediately clocking that he didn't belong, but having trained on his purpose for months, allowing his presence passage. How strange, he thought. When the fair is over, I'll never step foot in the palace again. Fatum the 23rd followed behind her guards, flittering into the room in her rejected blue ball gown, the one her mother worried would clash with Love's, quote, weeds, unquote. Seeing her in that dress did pain Love. She looked phenomenal. It was a lot of dress for dance practice. Who was she aiming to impress? Love had heard, but barely registered, the gossip about the princess's top picks. Chairing the fair meant he didn't care who she picked, as long as it didn't make his life any harder. Aside from the mountain hyacinth, everything in the ballroom was exactly as it would be for the welcome ball. Looking up into the chandeliers, Love noticed one of the woven greens drooping more than draping. He erected a ladder to tighten the weave. As he descended the ladder, focusing on the garland to ensure perfection, out of the shadows of his focus, a voice surprised him. Only 2 steps above the ground, he looked down on Fatum the 23rd, her eyes like 2 sapphires inlaid in her plain white maiden's mask. His foot, midair, missed the final step entirely. Luckily, Love's lanky legs extended into the ground with just a quick jam of his knee. Not exactly graceful, but not terribly embarrassing either. "Pardon, princess?" he asked, knowing she'd said something but not sure what. 23 stared up, past Love, studying the chandeliers. "Will they keep?" she asked. Allowing a grin to escape his lips, Love couldn't resist feeling a tinge of pride for having fooled the keen eye of the princess. "Let's hope your mother asks the same." 23 squinted her eyes. It was about the only expression Love could make out, studying the pink flowers woven between greens. "They can't be fake. Bees are pollinating them. If you and the bees believe, who am I to correct you?" "Are they fake?" she asked, amused. He could hear the smile even through her mask. "Yes, princess," he whispered conspiratorially, "but very compelling fakes, no? When everything must be perfect, why chance nature getting in the way?" With a shrug, she said, "I suppose I like the idea of a few imperfections." Turning to look Love in his eyes, she concluded, "Flaws make a thing more beautiful. I've disappointed you, princess." "No, You've no doubt made my mother very happy, and that makes my life easier. I can live with too perfect chandelier ornamentation more than my mother can tolerate a wilting petal. Love's relieved sigh was interrupted by the squeak of the wheels on the chair Bradford came rolling in on. Love hadn't seen Bradford since the vacation he never should have taken. That it got him sick served him right. Leaving his responsibilities just weeks before the fair to frolic through Forestian valleys was classic Bradford in its shocking irresponsibility. It had crossed Love's mind that the entire thing may have just been a farce to give him more time off. But seeing Bradford's usually plump, lively face looking pale and very withdrawn, Bradford's illness couldn't be denied. Just rolling in to check on everything, Bradford attempted to joke before being hit with a coughing spell. Can I get you something? Water? Love asked. Bradford held his hand up, shaking his head. No, quite common. I'll be okay, but shouldn't talk much. Shame, said Love, gently ribbing his old friend. In the long minute Bradford took to catch his breath, Love found himself realizing just how much he'd missed his best friend. Their relationship, like many things in the sea, had layers beyond its surface. Bradford's family had supported Love's when times were hard, placing a debt on Love's family. But as was so often the case in society, no exact amount had been agreed to, and that left Love standing on shifting shale on the edge of a cliff, not knowing what move might send him over the edge and out of Bradford's good graces. It wasn't just a matter of repayment, it was a matter of honor. He had been given the family name, Love, and with it a duty to be a great sea contributor. Love's quest for greatness had made manipulation for a skilled society mover like Bradford easy and effective. Trumpets, horns, an alert to the intention of the musicians to start. Elitists, gather before me. Leonardo, a tall, thin male, always meticulously styled with the graceful body and movement that hinted at his profession, bellowed into his megaphone. Love found him bossy, arrogant, obnoxious, very unsea-like at the very least. Love worried how Princess Fatum the 23rd would find Leonardo and wanted to ensure his warnings to the instructor to treat 23 with the utmost respect were executed. Forestians could have their opinions about the sea's royal family, but not under their own roof while taking their coin, and certainly not on Love's watch. Love wheeled Bradford to the side of the dance floor where they would supervise the situation. Together, they watched everyone pair off, actively avoiding 23. Touching the future heir to the throne without her solicitation was forbidden. Even the sea's elite were not bold enough to ask for Fatum's hand. With a nudge of his elbow and jerk of his chin toward her, Bradford silently encouraged Love to go. Me? Love said, unbelieving. If none of them can, I surely can't. She likes you, Bradford choked. Standing to flatten his worker's suit, hardly fit for anything other than hard manual work, he pulled back his shoulders as he strode in her direction. Leonardo made eye contact with an earnestness that stopped Love in his tracks. 23 turned, as did most of the elites. And Princess, obviously, you will be with me until someone suitable asks for your hand, Leonardo said into the megaphone for all to hear. Even Fatum's guards chuckled. The elites, with shaming glances, snickered softly in Love's direction before returning to their partners. Love turned to glare at Bradford, who, in a coughing fit of laughter, looked extremely distressed. Despite his fury, Love returned to Bradford's side and wheeled him to the refreshment station. From behind them, the organ droned a deep first note. "Circle us and follow our lead," Leonardo shouted. He bowed to 23's curtsy. All the other couples did the same, Then the strings began to saw in soft harmony. Leonardo held his right palm to 23's, their elbows parallel but not touching. Males, left arm behind, wrist to spine. Princess, he said, lowering his voice from a command to a suggestion. Flare, please. 23 pinched her skirt about halfway down and drew it up and out, showcasing its beauty and flow. They circled each other, staring into each other's eyes. Good. Next. Boom. 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 Bada boom. The drums pounded. We clap on the fourth beat of the measure at a 90-degree angle to your right. Boom. Bada boom. Good. Then left. And right. And left. Good. Now for the steps. But before we do, Sir coughs too much. Leonardo looked in Love's direction, and that was the first he realized that Bradford had continued to cough the entire time. With a quiet acknowledgement, Love wheeled Bradford and himself out of the ballroom and down the ramp to the palace foyer. Sorry, friend, Bradford gasped between his rasping cough in a quintessential elite-level non-apology, forbidding Love to embarrass him. I have no misgivings about my station, Love replied. Yet you're still cursed with hope. Is it how amusing you find yourself that invokes the cough, or something else? Else would you wheel me? Bradford couldn't cough up a destination, along with all the blood that came pouring from his mouth. In a panic over the boom, boom, boom claps in the distance, Love cried for help into the empty that no one would hear. By the time he'd left to find someone and returned, Bradford had stumbled out of his chair and his delicately carved, youthful face lay unresponsive in a pool of blood. Love watched as palace staff and doctors attended Bradford, wondering if this was the bad thing his bones felt before it had happened, or simply an omen of even worse things yet to come. When they placed a sheet over Bradford's body, Love hardly registered the hand on his shoulder that said, "I'm sorry, he's gone." When they'd removed the body, the blood remained, as did Love, staring at it. Without thinking, his hand reached for the hanky that Bradford had given him, quote, for his sniveling, end quote. Kneeling, he began to wipe up the blood. Such a mess, was all he could think. But his frantic mind had picked the wrong tool for the task, a glitch in his otherwise flawless execution. As the blood pushed into the cracks of the stone, Love's efforts making the mess worse with every pass, another nameless, faceless set of hands grabbed his shoulder, cooed calm words, and led him away. He faintly heard the voice say, "Tomorrow will be better."